Welcome to Afro Worldview, Women in Focus, a weekly talk show which profiles women who've made great strides against all adversity. And the women are all from different walks of life and contribute significantly to society in various sectors. And the show is an interactive, informative, inspirational program to share our history, our victories and failures, to learn from one another and move the continent forward. Today, we take a look at business opportunities for women in the BRICS cluster.
BRICS is a group of developing countries made up of Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. The countries meet annually at the BRICS Leaders Summit and discuss spheres of political and socio-economic coordination, in which the member countries have identified several business opportunities, economic growth opportunities, and areas of cooperation among countries. The group has received overwhelming global attention since its inception and continues to play a critical role across the globe. The approach is simple: to deepen, broaden, and intensify relations within the grouping and among the individual countries for more sustainable, equitable, and mutually beneficial development. However, the question of the availability of opportunities for women in the BRICS cluster has been a pressing one, with many female entrepreneurs and scholars calling for the inclusivity of women. This saw the establishment of the BRICS Women Business Alliance. The alliance was formed on a directive to reinforce the involvement of women in the economy and to build personal capacity. It soon started answering the question of women being left out, paying special focus on three spheres: business, networking, and education. The alliance seeks to broaden the access to resources and capital, to promote business network amongst women in BRICS countries, and to build personal capacity and education. However, as BRICS is creating more business opportunities among member states in Africa, the grouping has been urged to do more to empower women economically too. Afro Worldview, Bureau Report.
And joining us on the show today is founder of Ladies in the Frontline and also chairperson of the BRICS Agriculture Business Working Group, Madam Slauzi Zodwa Mohami. Welcome to you, and thank you so much for joining us. It's such an honor. I must say I'm starstruck because of the enormity of the work that you do, but yet you find time and the energy to do it. Just give us a sense of what your role is in the BRICS Working Group and also the BRICS Council.
Okay. Thank you, Cindy. Thank you to your listeners at home. And thank you. I mean, it is an honor and a privilege. I do not take for granted that you invite people like us to try and expose what some of us are doing there. And as you say, you're actually just quite surprised, because a lot of the time, when we don't get people like yourselves to expose what we do, the BRICS, as you may know, it's a cluster of 5 BRICS countries. Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. And within the BRICS, you have, it's countries, but you also have the BRICS Business Forum, which was formed in 2013 when South Africa hosted in Durban. And in that, you have 7 working groups, one of which is agriculture, which I'm privileged to chair. Then you have finance, infrastructure, skills development, aviation, and so on and so forth. So in there, really, it's pushing. My passion comes because I have a passion in agriculture, especially for women, because my belief is that women have always been the ones who feed families through centuries and all that, but they've not had the chance to be sitting on the table with the big guys that actually run the commercial side and make money out of agriculture and food security.
And the Business Council, as you were saying, is also referred to as the engine room of making BRICS a reality, not only when it comes to prosperity, but also when nations can enjoy the wealth that they're endowed with. That in the case of Africa, for example, with all this wealth, and yet we're amongst the poorest in the world.
Yeah, it's actually, Cindy, it's actually quite concerning that Africa has the most arable land, and yet Africa is actually food insecure. And most of the people who produce that food, if you look at a lot of farms, it's women throughout centuries who've been picking up stuff with their bare hands. So the BRICS now is a platform in which really, especially this particular one of agriculture, that now at least putting the women in the forefront so that they begin to not just be some people in the background, you know, of producing this food or being participant in food security and all, but at least coming in and claiming their space in. So the BRICS governments open those opportunities amongst themselves. As you know, these are some of the big emerging markets. So women who sell potatoes and stuff along the road, but who don't have access to markets where they can now, you know, fully reach their full potential.
And it all sounds hugely sophisticated and complicated, highly technical, where as a woman who might be running a subsistence farming or maybe has a vegetable garden that wants to expand, it seems out of reach. Would you say that it is accessible? Why is it that we're not seeing that exponential growth, if you like, of emerging farmers, especially women?
Actually, BRICS in itself, yes, has been, you know, viewed a lot of times more like one of the usual World Economic Forum, St. Petersburg Forum, another one of the other, you know, G20, one of the boys' clubs again. So it's just that women now, we are really making sure that our voices are heard. You go to some of these panels where women are supposed to have a voice representative, and you find that, you know, mostly it's but in the background, as you say, the people who make things happen are actually women. So now what we're trying to do together with countries like Russia, that we brought a proposal to the table within BRICS that we want more visibility of women in all these working groups, not just agriculture. So, but we're pushing agriculture because the theme of the summit that's coming to South Africa now in July is actually food security and digital economy. And agriculture and food security falls within all of them. So we are trying to make it come down, because a lot of people say, what is this BRICS? What do you do? So all you are doing, you know, you have to first start out there with the negotiations. It's taken quite a while for us to make sure that BRICS countries take us serious. We are not just going to become, as South Africa, as a dumping ground where people bring their products. We need to be treated as equal partners. That's what at least we're working on now, especially with women. And I must say a lot of men now are really giving, you know, an ear and supporting women coming on board, and the exposure of women in food security. And I'm also surprised at how many women have now discovered that have been farming quietly out there in the background, producing stuff, flowers, food, and, you know, as we know, mothers feed nations.
Absolutely, but you're also touching on the fact that the vertical ownership of the value chain, where we had become more of a consumer-based economy as opposed to manufacturers or even producers.
Yeah, that is exactly the concerns that we are addressing, that, you know, there are a lot of women out there, you'll be surprised, that actually produce food, but women have farms that they don't even own title deeds of. Women don't have access to finance that would help them expand their businesses. And then they end up, you go, let's say when you drive out of Venda, for instance, or something, see those amazing women, or even just getting into the townships, into Soweto, you stop, one car stops, and you have 5, 6 people trying to sell you the same product, the oranges or something. What happens to those products at the end of the day when they've not sold them without access to proper markets, to formal markets? It becomes a waste. So we are creating a turnkey solution where women can produce, can play a part in producing everything up to taking the same food that is almost off and producing maybe cosmetics, byproducts of the same stuff. So that's what we're busy. It's a mammoth task when you live. Because also, I mean, I was in Moscow recently in a conference of World, you know, Farmers Association. It's a United Nations. And I'm telling you, they were probably out of, let's say, 200 men, there would have been probably about 30 women, which is quite worrisome. So women are really pushing now to make sure that we are recognized. Women come in there. They are not just in the background producing the food for big farmers And
So how do you grow the numbers? Do you have a database? Do you have public hearings or even submissions? How do you reach out to more women with these opportunities?
In the last few years, my focus really was, I was getting involved more and more with BRICS because I was more, for me, my drive was to get access to these markets of these big countries. My drive was getting involved and getting exposure to places like, let's say, the financial institutions like your BRICS Bank, like your, and collecting, as you say, the database and finding out women out there who are, and with the help of a lot of organizations such as your AFASA, there are a lot of other women, or rather, agricultural organizations that have women. So I go in there and try and harness and find those women that are doing these amazing things and forming so that the whole thing filters, from, it stops going from up down and then trying to just really go from the bottom up.
You're talking about the challenges, I suppose, of barriers to entry, but there's also the sustainability of the business, that now you have this opportunity, you may not have the capacity, the know-how, the technical expertise. How does then the BRICS Business Forum assist in that?
For instance, BRICS, in terms of the lending capacity, is none of those ladies that are selling on the side of the road have a business that needs or that can handle, or let's say $1.3 billion. So what we're trying to do, what we've been doing, what we've done is getting the cooperatives to function at least through digital, be part of digital economy, not in very, very formal ones, where people, you'd have a one-stop shop where people would know that in the morning they can bring their wares there, get money for the business they do, go and produce more, bring in here, get professional packaging and everything outside, and access to markets. That's how slowly we're hoping to do that, because unfortunately BRICS for now can only lend at that high level. So, but then there are other smaller institutions, let's say like your IDC, and where we can find for women who need to start up. But it's quite, within BRICS, it's quite a big elephant for now.
Yeah, and
challenge.
I mean, as an accomplished businesswoman, a well-decorated leader, and one could say even a doyen when it comes to business, that the wealth of knowledge that you have, you're also very passionate about empowering young people. I met Spiwe, your assistant, who you were telling me for the first time she's been out of the country, and this is her first job, is it?
Yeah.
Anyway, so talk us through your mentorship program, the accessibility thereof, and how far wide is the reach?
In the last couple of years, I don't know, it's because when I was growing up myself, I always liked hanging around people who were much older than myself. I had older friends, and I learned so much, and I have a passion for both male and female young people. You sit amongst young people. I mean, apart from the fact that I learned so much from them, more than they actually learned from me, is that sometimes I find that if we listened a little bit more, and it becomes a cooperation of the older generation and the younger generation, I mean, the sky is the limit. So I've always liked mentoring, and my passion is always, and pleasure is always seeing after they've been around me or I've been around them, for them to go out and accomplish amazing things. Spiwe came in to replace two absolutely amazing young people, that one of them today is busy forming her own fund, she wants to do a bank, and she's only 30 years old.
Wow.
And she's the one who actually introduced me to aquaponics as one of the agricultural things. So Spiwe came in, she was interviewed. The next week she was in a job. And 3 days later, after she was in a job, she was off to China. And what drew me to her also was that she had taken the initiatives. Her parents didn't have to ask her to go and get a driver's license or to apply for a passport. She took those initiatives because she decided she wanted a career in what do you call it, foreign and travel, And it means she set the pace for herself. And I was very impressed. And when she said, I'm not money driven. I just want to be around you and learn. And so I said, okay, that's it. You've got a passport, you can drive, let's go.
I think for the benefit of our viewers, we'll also get a snapshot of Spiwe, so you can see the lovely young lady, dynamic and a go-getter. I mean, as you were saying, she has the propensity to start things, has the hunger and the drive. And especially when we look at in South Africa, where there is the scourge of drug and substance abuse, child-headed families. There's also a video on social media doing the rounds of 2 girls beating up an educator. I mean, where is, you know, that moral fiber in society has eroded. So it gives hope when we see young
actually,
people.
I've been sharing those videos with Spiwe and other young people. It's quite disturbing, Cindy. You have no idea to what extent. It's not just that one video of young kids beating up a teacher because she confiscated a telephone. It is young kids who happen to have a knife in class stabbing one another, and it's even more disturbing. It's more disturbing by any kids, but for girls also, I mean, kicking one another, almost beating up another one to death and knifing one another, and it is quite, and you look, and I look at them, and I wish I could just have them all in my platform and just say, it's okay, you're okay. Are they acting up? Are the parents aware that the kids behave this way? We're so busy sometimes out there that we don't even have the time to know what our kids are doing out there. Sometimes we're quick to blame parents, but we don't even know what these kids are having to deal with, or the parents themselves for that matter. So we need to come together, even just as women, and just say, let's, you know, taking and saying, let's go out and see what exactly is happening out there.
And I don't know if your economic standing, if that changes, whether, you know, we'd have a more peaceful, cohesive, tolerant society, because this level of aggression is across the spectrum. You know, you find it in affluent areas, you find it also in distressed areas.
Precisely. It's before people who judge and, for instance, but now it's, I mean, as you say, you see it even in sophisticated, it's just some worrisome events that you know, what happened? Even good kids that you know are just good kids. What we are doing on the 28th, alongside just during the BRICS, we're launching the Ladies in the Front Line and Leading Ladies of Africa and the World. And in it, we have a flagship called 1 Million Young Leaders Around the World for Peace, Prosperity, and Social Cohesion. Because we felt that we cannot be leaving the world, this aggressive world full of wars, poverty, starvation, and all that, to our children. What are we living? We need to question ourselves. What sort of world are we handing over to the young generation? Is it this of just material, nice cars, and all, or of the Spiwers who says, I'm not money-driven. I just want to be next to you and just learn as much as possible. I'm giving myself a year or 2 before I continue with my studies, but I want to get as much experience as possible. But then, whereas when you get other young people, the first thing is, okay, how much am I going to earn so I can go boast to my friends? That she says, one of her friends actually said to her one time, says, me, become somebody's PA and carry somebody's handbag. And one day she was saying, I wonder where she is now. I'm in China and Russia and all over the world, you know, and the focus sometimes, it's just really helping our young people with the right focus.
Yeah, and also, I mean, you talk about your attitude determining your latitude, and, you know, having that spirit of appreciation, the fact that you have, somebody gave you a chance, an opportunity. It's not about making a quick buck, and that paradigm shift needs to happen as well, not only among young people, because there are many others that will have dreams and feel, you know, that dream is now deferred, there's no opportunities, and yet they're there.
And Cindy, I mean, what we are trying to also teach the young people is that I say to them, the other day one young person was trying to do business with me, and the people she was referring to me let her down, and she was feeling so bad, she was beating herself. And she says, I feel so bad that I have to waste your time. I said, you know, the fact that somebody disappoints you and I get disappointed still at my age, it's still part of the growing. It doesn't come, so even at our age, as you and I just been alluding to the fact that, you know, a lot of the small business entrepreneurs, or people who are actually hardworking, are having a rough time out there. And we have to find a voice. We have to find one another as South Africans. We have to find and say, okay, what is it that you can do that if I put it together with yours can just get us off the ground and stuff like that. I believe that, you know, I believe in the human race, not any race, not a political parties or a race, but just the human race, that there's so much we can accomplish.
And you know, you've just touched on the hardships. And I wanted to ask you, because you've established so many successful companies, and I'm sure you've had your fair share of failure, that in business, especially for women, when you have to be a homemaker, raise children, have a career, finding the balance, but also understanding that there's probably more failure than what you'll see success. And we need to make peace with that.
Yeah, sometimes, yes, you feel a little embarrassed or sometimes about the failures, but as you grow older, you become selfish about a lot of things. One of them is your time and your experience in saying, you know what, if I didn't have those experiences, I don't know if I would be the person that I am today. The failures were there, not that you actually always welcome them, but they happen when they are now behind you. You're like, wow, did I really, the other day my sister looked at me, my sister is my biggest, confidant. And she knows, because she's the person that I can talk to and say, this is the way it is. And she would be like, there are a lot of, not putting men down or anything, just said, I'm surprised that you're either not into taking drugs or drink, because some of the stuff that I've seen you go through. And I said, people sometimes see the end product, the outer. But I also come from strong women. My mother is 76, my grandmother is 95.
Wow.
And the women who've always taught me that it doesn't matter how bad, you got up in the morning, you took a shower, whatever you can, and you made sure that you put your best smile, and you'd attract positive energy. Because sometimes the failures can actually really take you on a detour that you didn't plan for.
Mm. And you talk about the support, your auxiliary support, and how important those networks are, and whether we are leveraging enough on just Slauzi, Cindy, Spiwe, or people that you know on your WhatsApp groups, be it church, etc., in lifting one another up, or we're not having those kind of conversations?
I think there's so many platforms where we're having the conversations, but it is the implementation of the conversations that seems to be not getting there or dragging. I mean, you sit among some of the most amazing people, and they say some of the amazing things and these amazing dreams, but when it comes to implement, in my board, for instance, of the agribusiness, I've changed boards 3 times. And all because you look at the CVs and the profiles of people and they say all the right things. But then you say, okay, let's get on with and then you find that sometimes you can't even say, okay, there's a report that's due maybe in the next 2 days. Can I just have 1-pagers of inputs of what is it that you are reading on getting out there with regard to food security around South Africa, around nothing. Then you get upset again and you think like, maybe you're being a little harsh. Then you change again, you get new. So talking is, but I think it's time we get through and over talking and getting down to doing more than we talk.
Yeah, now we heed your clarion call, and this is a call for action to women and young people and those that want to get into business. So step number 1 would be introspection. They often say self-mastery is probably where you need to start, knowing what your vision is, your goals, where you're going, etc., and your own limitations.
Really, Cindy, I mean, the examples of your likes of Spiwe, a young girl who comes and says, I'm 23 years old, I've just finished school, where am I going to get the experience that all these other corporates live? Okay. And I said, okay, what is your ambition? What do you want to do? No, I want to do foreign relations. Okay, foreign relations. Anything about no, I've got a little job somewhere that just gets me petrol or some. And the sense of appreciation of Spiwe is what got me. She said to me, I said, if you say you don't want money, you want money, says, I'm privileged. How many kids appreciate that? You must listen to. I'm privileged that I still live with my parents who pay for food, who bought me a car, and who still buy me petrol. So while I have that privilege, then I want to use this opportunity to gain as much experience as I can. Other kids, even over and above what the parents do, which they take for granted, would still want more because they want to have a nice Gucci bag to show off to friends or something like that. And I was shocked when I said, okay, what is your expectation? What would you like? And I can't even mention it. I mean, of course, I knew that I wouldn't abuse it to that extent. But when you get the fact that she had a passport, she had a driver's license at the age of 23, her parents didn't, she just woke up in the morning and says, I'm going to do a driver's license.
Yeah.
And then one day she went and said, I'm going to get a passport. I wouldn't have taken her on the trip 3 days later if she didn't have a passport. If we had to have, but it is taking that first step of where your passion lies, and then just really hoping.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk. You mentioned the BRICS summit that South Africa will be hosting, and whether there are opportunities. In other words, it's open to the public. How do you organize yourself and get a seat at the table?
I wouldn't say it's open to, it's more modeled around the same probably as your World Economic Forum, as I said, your St. Petersburg. It's not necessarily open as that people will come to the forum and everybody can register. It is these 5 countries that then invite, and as you may be aware, South Africa is hosting not just the BRICS countries, but invited, which is what happened in 2013, other African countries like your Egypt, your Guinea-Conakry and all that, to come in, because it's not just about South Africa, it's about the entire continent. So the countries get, let's say, 400 invitations, all the 5 countries. South Africa only gets 150 invitations, which means accreditations. So our president would have to make do with 150 invitations, where he has to invite some ministers, some stakeholders, some provincial leaders, some out of 150, plus hopefully I think we've invited 20 other heads of states around the African countries just to come and be a part of. So unfortunately then, I mean, with 150, even us as chairs of groups, you find that they say, okay, we'll only give you your accreditation and SPIW as one, or your secretariat.
We'll do our best to make sure that we spread the word.
But it means out there,
it
means countries are out there, just like, let's say, your World Economic Forum, to represent the other masses in there, but there's limited. But there are other side shows, like we're launching on the 28th, launching the Leading Ladies. As many people can come. We have a dinner in Durban during the forum in Durban, which is from the 20th to the 23rd. So we have the dinner on the 23rd in the evening. Then we come to Johannesburg. There is a gala dinner, but that's government then. That's not us. That's not business. 25th, then you have the summit, and 26th. So 28th, then people get opportunity to then be able to mingle and be around the same and check the opportunities. But there are other things that are taking place currently. Like on Thursday, there's something at the university around BRICS education and skills. So the other things that happen, if people go and Google on there and can check where their areas of interest are and how they can get involved.
That gives us enough time just to get all the contact details. And I know you've got a multiplicity of interests and activities that you're doing and networks. So where would be the first call of point where we can access more information?
There is the BRICS Secretariat that is based in Cape Town. For now, I'll give you mine, then I'll pass it on, because I don't have the Secretariat one. That's run at the office of Segunjalo, which is a voluntary, because we all do is voluntary. So Segunjalo, who's our chair, Dr. Iqbal Serve, then accommodates the BRICS Secretariat for the period that he's chairperson in his office. So it's that one, but ours would be Slauzi. Google BRICS SA 2018. Yeah. Then it would have all the other.
Wow, no, it's really been an enriching
thank you so
an educational chat having you in
so
studio.
Much.
Thank you so much for joining us. And I'm sure you at home as well, you found a value in the program. You can let us know on assignment at afrotone.co.za, or you can join us on social media at Afro Worldview. From myself, Cindy, and the technical crew, be abundantly blessed.